This story is based on a true incident that happened to a pizza delivery boy named John. It took place when he was working part-time at a small pizza shop during his college days. One night, around 1 a.m. Just as John was about to leave after finishing his shift, the phone at the pizza shop rang. He hesitated for a moment, but then picked it up. On the other end, a man was speaking in a very low voice, placing an order. At first, John thought about refusing the order since the shop's closing time had already passed. But when the man ordered 4 large pizzas, John reconsidered. Big orders often came with a nice tip, and John needed the money. So John quickly prepared the pizzas and set out for the delivery. The address was far from the pizza shop, on the outskirts of the city. It was late, and the road was desolate. The path was rough, surrounded by wild trees on both sides. There were no streetlights, making the entire area pitch dark. After driving for a while, John finally reached the address. He found himself standing in front of a very old, eerie-looking house. The house was located deep within a forested area, and not a single light was on. There was no movement, no sign of life. Looking at the house, John felt a chill run down his spine. He thought about leaving, but then he called his manager to explain the situation and get permission to leave the place. However, the manager didn't answer. John was stuck. He knew if he returned without delivering the pizzas, his manager would be furious and his salary could be docked. After trying to call several more times with no response, John decided to approach the house and deliver the pizzas. As he moved closer to the door, suddenly, a light inside the house flickered on. John felt a bit relieved, thinking maybe someone was home after all. He rang the doorbell and called out, "Pizza delivery," but no one answered. He rang the bell again. This time he heard footsteps from inside, but the door remained shut. Just as John was about to turn around and leave, the door creaked open on its own. John, now nervous but determined, stepped inside. The hall was dimly lit, and there was no one around. He called out again, "Hello? Is anyone here? Your pizza's here." Then, out of the corner of his eye, he noticed a cat darting across the hall, disappearing into one of the rooms. As soon as the cat entered the room, the lights in the room switched on and the TV flickered to life. The sound of children's laughter filled the air. John, now feeling uneasy, thought someone was playing a prank on him. Annoyed, he walked towards the room. Inside, 2 little girls were sitting quietly staring at him. Their eyes followed his every move, but they said nothing. John, now frustrated, said, "I've been ringing the bell for so long. Why didn't you open the door?" But the girls remained silent, continuing to stare at him. "I'm here to deliver your pizzas. Is there an adult in the house who can pay?" John asked, trying to stay calm. Suddenly the girls' eyes turned completely white, and their eerie silence turned into disturbing, high-pitched laughter. They slowly pointed toward another door in the room. John, confused and scared, turned around. What he saw made his heart stop. Standing right behind him was a terrifying figure, a woman shrouded in darkness. John's hands trembled, and the pizza boxes he was holding slipped from his grip, crashing to the floor. The figure seemed to move closer. Panic set in. John, overwhelmed with fear, ran towards his bike as fast as he could. He sped away from the house, but when he looked back, he saw the woman and the 2 girls standing at the doorway watching him. He hadn't gone far when his bike began to sputter and slow down. Suddenly the engine died. In the eerie silence of the night, John realized his tire had been punctured. Frightened, he dialed the police and begged for help. While waiting for them to arrive, John glanced into his rearview mirror, and what he saw made his blood freeze. The shadowy figure of the woman, along with the 2 girls, was standing right behind him. Slowly they began to approach. John, paralyzed with fear, jumped off his bike and sprinted into the forest. He ran and ran until he could run no more. Finally, he collapsed behind a large tree, praying for his life. A few moments later, he heard police sirens in the distance. Gathering the last of his strength, he ran back to his bike. When he reached it, the police were already there, inspecting the scene. John told them everything, and together they went back to the house. The police searched the house thoroughly, but aside from a stray cat, they found nothing. The next morning, John learned a horrifying truth. The house had been abandoned for the past 3 years. The last occupants were a woman and her 2 young daughters. 3 years ago, they had been brutally murdered in that house. John was in shock. He realized that what he saw that night were not ordinary people, but the restless spirits of the woman and her children. After this terrifying experience, John quit his job as a pizza delivery boy. But even now, whenever he recalls that night, his body trembles with fear. Please do not change the story. Do not change the story of script and use more dark and scary stock images and also bell or ding-dong scary eerie sounds in the video.